What should you charge when you are setting up your show to play for seniors? In this video, we're going to talk about some of the things that work for me. We're going to talk about pricing structure. We're going to talk about some things you should consider as you start booking shows to fill your weeks and months as a senior community performer.
Wonderful.
When I started off booking shows for senior communities, my rate was $50. I didn't know. I called all the communities that were within 5 to 10 miles from where I lived, and I set up shows, and I got on the phone, and I called up the communities. Once I'm talking to the activity director, I start to share a little bit of music that I play, how I got started doing this, and what my intentions are for her residents at their community, which is to cheer everybody up with playing music that I love that my grandfather taught me on his old guitar. You'll have a different story to tell. Always be honest, be truthful. Finally, the activity director will ask you, okay, it sounds like a pretty good show. We'd like to try you out. What's your fee? I was taken back the first time someone asked me that question. I started a little bit and I said, well, what do you usually pay? To which they say, well, what do you usually charge? And there was a long, awkward exchange of negotiation without even talking real numbers. I started and then I said $50. She said, sounds great. She says, we'll see you on the 15th of March. And I booked my show, did the show. It was okay. Went and did my song list and everything. And she said afterwards, we'd like to have you back. And she assumed that my rate was $50 for every show. And it took many shows after that for me to kind of get out of that cycle of, hey, I'm worth more than just $50. It all depends on two main factors. Number one, your experience, and number two, the location of the show. I started calling places just around town. There's not a lot of expenses accrued when you're just driving 5 minutes down the road to a show. However, when you're going an hour or more away, maybe you want to set your rates at $125, $150, $175 as the mileage starts to accrue. I want to give you a few tips on what to say when you're on the phone with an activity director. I also want to share with you a few things that you should not say. Firstly, when you're talking with anybody, it's a stroke of luck because most of the time the activity director is out and about and with the residents and here or there and anywhere but their phone, so you find yourself leaving messages all the time. A couple of things you don't want to do. Never discuss your pricing structure in a message. That's just not a good thing to do. There's no point in doing that. They can just as easily just not call you back. Just don't ever mention what you charge in a message. Also, another thing to consider is, let's say you end up just calling communities and leaving a dozen messages for a dozen different activity directors. You want to give them some incentive to call you back. For example, hey, my name is Chris Ekblom. I play the guitar and share music with residents and try to cheer everybody up. I wanted to reach out to you to see if your residents might enjoy a new entertainer. I live just down the street and would love to share music with them. My number is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, you leave a dozen of these messages. Let's say you actually get a call back from one or two of them. When a community calls you back, you have the leverage as far as pricing goes. Martha calls you back. Hey, Chris, we just got your message. Want to talk with you about the show that you talked about during your message. How much do you charge again? In this situation, you want to go higher. If your rate is typically $100, hey, Martha, thanks for calling me back. For a 1-hour program, my fee is $150. Let her answer you back. One thing I learned working in a call center is that once you put the price out, let it land. Let her answer you back. Hey, that sounds great. That's perfect. We'll sign you up for the 12th of April or whatever. Or she might say, that's a little bit high for us. In which case you might say, what would be perfect for you and your community? I'm happy to work with you for this first show. When a community calls you back, you have a little bit more leverage when it comes to pricing. go on the higher side. When you're just starting out, I typically go on the lower end, and I specifically focus on communities that are within my locale, about 10-mile radius of where I live, so I don't have to invest too much in the shows. $50, $75, $95. Typically, anything under $100 is within the budget of most any senior community, whether you're playing for a retirement community or a nursing home. That's typically the ballpark that you want to be in. That's where I found myself in when I was just starting out. If they tell you that you're their favorite performer, that's a top dollar. If they're telling you, we want to book you every single month, that's a top dollar. And by that I mean the most that you would charge a community for your show. Most I typically charge, with the exclusion of holidays, are $175. If a community balks at that particular number, you can counter with something like, well, what do you typically charge your best performers? The residents will let you know whether they like you. If the residents don't let you know, the activity director will let you know by booking you and bringing you in for more shows. When you're setting your price range for senior communities, you also want to consider the size of the community. Some retirement communities that I visit, there are only a dozen residents. Maybe only 5 or 6 or 7 show up to the show. I did a show just yesterday at a retirement community when it was the size of a small ranch house. There were only 7 bedrooms, and of the 7 bedrooms that 7 residents lived in, only 5 of them showed up to my show. The community is very small, and they typically do not have a very big budget. And I found that out when I visited the community. And when the director said, well, our budget really is only $75, would you consider coming in and playing for our residents? And I negotiated and said to her, I'd love to play this first show for $75, and then we can talk about booking further shows after that, whether your residents like me. I did the show, had an awesome time, and built some rapport with the residents, and discovered that they do not get any performers. Nobody comes in and shares music with them. I am the only one. And the director said, we really don't have a budget for this, and we'll offer you $75 if you'd like to come in again, but that's really as much as we can pay. And just seeing those residents and how much they enjoyed the music, I agreed to another show. And I kept my rate right there because they could not go any higher. And if I did not show up, I knew that the residents weren't getting any entertainers coming in to make them smile and make them happy. As you start to build shows and build your rapport and build your customer base and start to regularly visit communities, you start to develop relationships with these residents. Some people really, really love you. They want to hear you all the time. Some people become your super fans. And every single time you go there, they want to hear a certain song, and they sit in a certain spot, and they're in the front row, and I'm happy to do a show for $75. Other communities, the size may be quite a bit bigger. You may look at a retirement community or an assisted living and independent living community that has different neighborhoods. This is an opportunity for you to book multiple shows in different neighborhoods, in which case that directly affects your pricing structure. If you're talking to an activity director and you say that your rate is $150, she says, well, that is a little bit high, for what we're looking to do. I think we might want to look at another performer. I don't think that this is going to work for our business relationship. To which you might counter, well, I noticed that there are a couple different neighborhoods at your community. I would consider doing a show for $125 if you book me in the same day, a show for your independent living residents and your assisted living residents. Or sometimes they combine assisted living and independent living. You can say I can do a show for your independent and assisted, and then do a show for your memory care community. I'd be happy to discount my show if we can schedule a double show for that single day. There are lots of different ways that you can set your pricing. Starting with $50 at the very, very beginning, getting a feel on where the community is at, calling up a community that's a little bit bigger. They have residents that have more needs and they have more resources, and they typically can pay you a little bit more. If you're looking at booking shows around the holidays or in evenings or in the weekends, I typically set my prices a little bit higher with an increment of $25. My rate's usually $150 at one community. If we want to schedule a show on a Saturday morning, it's $175 for the hour program. If we're looking at the week of Easter or Mother's Day or Assisted Living Week, which we just had just in September, the second week of September, sometimes I get a little bit better of a rate because communities have bigger budgets to celebrate this particular time of year for the residents. Whether you're booking a show for the first time or whether you're an experienced performer, ultimately your goal is to make the residents happy and make as best an impression as you can, because if they love you and they want you back, you can typically charge a lot more. I hope this gives you an idea on how you should price your shows when you're calling senior communities. As always, I wish you the best of luck. Call up the communities that are close by first, schedule shows with them, learn through the experience, have an awesome show, and have fun playing for the residents, and shine love and light on everyone and make everybody happy. I'll see you in the next video.